Good morning, happy Tuesday. Well, we just got in again, and it's still fairly dark out there. But I don't know, in about an hour or so, it will be light, and then things will be great. But, right now, depending on how we time things, we only get out to see daylight for one of our walks. So grab your coffee, tea, hot chocolate, whatever you want, and we'll get on and we'll get going with our chat for the day. So sit back, relax, and we'll get going in just one sec. Okay, so 3 members of a polygamous sect from Kelowna areas. Let me just double check here. Are to go on trial in the BC Supreme Court because they have been transporting underage girls across the border to meet up with other polygamists. Now, I find it funny that they always have the girls go underage. But the men, they can be any age. And some of them are like really old and, are no sort of pick for the women or the girls. And they have no choice but to go with these men because that's, the way their religion works. But I have to think, well, why do the women keep having to go and do this? Because they have no choice, they have no rights, they're not allowed to work. They're basically the old adage of being barefoot and pregnant. And, this just totally blows my mind that why now in the 20th century, or are we in the 21st century, do we have to keep this up? This is asinine. Just because the man is the most important thing, and the man has to lead the family, that the man can't, the man can choose as many wives as he can take, and they all have to have children, and it's one big happy family. But there's an awful lot of young girls now who don't want that, but they don't have a choice. They're kind of, if they're caught trying to break away from this, they are, how do I say, they are punished. And, it's sort of like the fear of God that if you don't go with this family and you run off, you have sinned and you have shunned and you shun the whole family. But, it's always young men choosing young women. It is never young women choosing men. Well, of course not, because men can't give up that power. And I think it's, first of all, it's like a woman can't have any sort of rights, can't have any sort of education, that, they're only good for one thing, and that's for procreating and barefoot and pregnant. And you know, I could see years ago where having more than one wife or being a polygamist could have helped. But we are now in a world where we are overpopulated and people just keep, oh, well, I've got to have as many kids as I can have. And, one wife, I can't get them out as quick fast enough. Well, why do you need 50,000 kids? And you keep going after young kids. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever watched that show. What is it? Four Wives or something. At least those women make the choice to enter into that relationship. It's not sort of like, oh, well, let's just go and get these kids who are underage. And, they really don't know what it's all about. Think about it. At 14, you may start of learned what the whole sexual, not the whole sexual process, but you kind of learned where babies came from. But that didn't mean that right at that moment you were willing to jump into bed with any old guy that came along. Now, some of these guys are probably my age, and, they're probably in my condition. A lot of them are. And, it's sort of like they keep making deals for these girls. And, there are laws in British Columbia that says that everyone's created equal. Doesn't say everyone's created equal unless you're a 14-year-old girl in a polygamous sect. Then you have no choice. And I've heard, or I've seen documentaries where a lot of these polygamous sects will tie down a girl until she's ready to submit. There's no real life for them. And, there have been members who have decided to run off and, just get away from the sect because they don't really just want to be pregnant. They may come up with ideas that are, astronomical, but because they are of the female gender, they have no voice. A woman there may have a great mind for business, but it's all whatever her husband says. And I think even if her husband says, you know what, I think you will go into business and I think you'll run it, I think the rest of the people in the sect will just run them out. So what is a girl to do? So in BC, we don't really push, except for we don't really push religious freedoms. And, I think where for any other aspect, a girl is expected to be of age for any other right. And if she is expected to lay down and have sex and get pregnant without her consent, that is still rape. But, I think the government here for polygamous families kind of turns their head to the whole situation. And I think, we've got to stop allowing girls to be traded as beef. Because, there's an awful lot of women that know how to act and can be great at running businesses, running unions, but we have to sit there an awful lot of times and be acceptant because that's what God wants. Well, you'll have to remember that the whole religious part about girls not being able to allow to do anything goes way back to biblical times. But that doesn't mean that things now aren't better. And I think we have to say, enough is enough. We charge them when they try to transport them across the line. But, if you stay in BC, things will be fine. What's the point of that? Women, girls, everyone needs to have the same rights as everyone else. And, everyone's got to stand up for these girls. That, no, you don't have to go and live as part of a sex slave. Because that's really all they are. They've got to live and do all that they can do to procure probably sons for this family. And if anyone else did this in BC, they would probably be arrested. But because, it's religion, I think we've all agreed that we need to be more open and transparent with religion, and just having people who are believing in polygamy isn't right. Even the Mormon church, who for years believed in polygamy. Sorry, couldn't get that out there for a sec. But, even that has changed now. And I think we've got to wake up, and I think we've really got to charge these men or women or whoever they are. That these women, young women, girls, have rights. It's something we definitely need to talk about. Okay, guns. Every time you turn on the TV news nowadays, it's all about there's been another shooting. And there was a shooting out in Surrey at a hotel, and this was just something on the morning news, but nothing more has been heard. So, why are we getting so violent in our living with one another? I think we need to say, let's stop it. Let's go on and let's try to love thy neighbor. And I know people kind of get upset when they keep hearing my Christian, commandments. But what's the real problem in living by the Ten Commandments. Whether you're a Christian or not. Now, there's nothing really wrong. I mean, it says, love thy neighbor as yourself, honor thy parents. You know, there's, thou shalt not kill. You know, I think we have so much we can learn and help us carry on with our society. But there's an awful lot of people out there that don't want to follow the religious Ten Commandments or the religious orders or whatever because it's all religion. And I don't believe in religion. And, oh, I believe in science. But what about just following the commandments? I don't think there really will be an issue to it. But, you know, so many people saying, well, and I think I talked on this weekend, that, oh, well, he dishonored my family, so he should be killed. And even in your own family, in some religions where it's not safe for you, there was a husband's father said for someone to kill off his daughter-in-law because he felt that she was having an affair. Why should you be killed because you're not happy in your marriage? Now, this person probably would have ordered the hit even if the person wanted a divorce. But when do we say enough is enough? You know, I think even the Abbotsford school was that the guy was unhappy over something that happened. And so he goes after and he and successfully killed one of the girls. I don't think he even knew which girls, like, you know, saying, oh, well, yeah, you're the one who did that. But it was any girl. And, you know, I think in school we take a look at bullying. And, you know, the amount of bullying, and bullying was, the anti-bullying was this week. But so often, kids get the way they are, and, you know, something that is started in elementary school keeps moving up and gets done all through high school. And bullying is a waste of time. It affects people and how they live every single day. But we don't see that. And then I think part of the Columbine shooting was because, yes, they were bullied. So how do we deter this anger that's in everyone that, you know, oh, well, you know, they had any right to shoot because, you know, they didn't treat me right, or, you know, where does it stop? When do you sort of say, okay, yes, this person did me wrong, but we turned it over to the police and so on? But, it's the old adage that keeps coming up, and really that says an eye for an eye. Well, why? Why do we always have to have an eye for an eye? And, we had another shooting. They didn't really know what the shooting was. The thing I saw in the morning news about it was that a number of people were taken away. And, it was a fairly nicer hotel. It wasn't a low life, no, low, you know, not a crumb bun hotel. But again, there is so much drugs out there, and people always looking that, drugs is the correct way to go. And, I think most of us out there are tired. We had this shooting, as I mentioned yesterday, under gun control. But, if we say, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not honor thy mother and father, well, okay. I think a lot of the Ten Commandments could be followed. We can make them laws in BC. But is that going to solve the problem? I think we have so much drugs that we need to ensure that our kids don't get involved in this. And, it's all, oh well, pot and that. Oh yeah, that's just great. That's a real party drug, and it's not addicting, so you can get high. Why do we always need to get high? Why can't we enjoy life for what it is? Get out, enjoy it with your family. I think we could do a hell of a lot better than what we're doing now. Where, people are just attacking people for the sake of attacking. I don't think this is really something we want to do or live with. Sorry, I'm itchy right here. I'm always itchy in this spot. I don't know why. So, the Ten Commandments could be a good place to start. Now, I think, people say, well, yeah, but it's religion. I don't want religion rammed down my throat. Well, that's fine. You don't have to have religion run down your throat. What you do need to do is you need to respect each other and, get out of the drug business. If you're in the drug business, what good is that really going to do, you or your family? Years ago, there was a shooting in Surrey where somebody went there to service, I think it was a fireplace, and they got shot because they happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And you know what? Enough is enough. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Do not kill. What's the problem with living like that? Something to think about. Okay, Victoria residents, Esquimalt, Oak Bay, Sydney, are really ready to, well, they've complained a number of times to the U.S. government over the rumble of the warplanes out of Wembley Island. or Whitby Island, sorry. Sorry, just let me turn around because different background. There you go. Now, why should the Americans just have say that, okay, yes, they can put more planes there, disturb everyone else around? It's only like 50 miles across open water, and I believe sound travels. But, you know, right now the U.S. doesn't really have any regards for other countries other than themselves. And do you think that's going to improve by after January 20th? I think that people, they can hear the rumble or they can feel the rumble of the planes taking off from the U.S. Naval Station. But, we all have to be happy with that because, the U.S. can do whatever they want and they really don't have to care what's going on in the rest of the world. Just as long as they can have their own little naval base and they can show their big bad power. I think people want to have a quiet neighborhood. No matter where you live, you really want to settle down and have a quiet neighborhood. Now, this is every day where they send up sorties, just to go patrolling but why do we have to succumb to whatever the U.S. wants? Well, the U.S. is a powerful ally, and, so why do these rumblings have to go on? And I believe they're going on all day and all night. But, it isn't kind of like, well, let's do it at certain times. And, I really have never heard this problem up in Courtney, Comox, where there's a Canadian fighter contingent up there. But, it's kind of like, well, the Americans, it is in American soil, it is on American soil. But, neighbors, and we have been a good ally. So maybe it is time that the Canada breaks away from the States. As I said, I don't think things are going to get better in the near future. People are going to keep wanting to, I have to show my military might, so let's get out there and let's fly more planes out of Whitby. And, even if they did more, I don't know, more taking off out of down Oregon. But you see, with Canada being right there, we always seem to have to be taking up with their noise. And, Donald Trump, is going to think that, well, you know what? We all have, we're just going to be the best darn superpower, so we don't have to listen to anyone else because we're the only ones worth listening to. And, I don't agree with it. I think Canada has had a strong military influence. Now, if we were running a naval air station out of Victoria, and it was bothering the Americans all the time, well, I bet you the Americans would demand satisfaction and yeah, we could only do it during these hours because it bothers the Americans. And I think it's time has come that as Canadians, we need to stand up for Canadian rights. I think that everyone seems to think that Canada will be going along with Mr. Trump and all his wishes. And, I think right now, our Prime Minister hasn't really shown a backbone to the States. And, how there's so much trade with Canada, and we don't want to go about losing this trade. Well, who really cares? Do you think that they're going to really want to stop the trade because Canada is making a stand for itself? I think, there are many other countries in the world, and I think on the opposite side of this, I think Prime Minister Trudeau has gone and tried to make different relationships out there. But you know what? I don't think we need to put up with whatever the United States wants. Because whatever the United States wants is always correct, And I don't think that is the case. They may have someone they want to have change, but I don't think he knows politics, and I don't think he knows how to get things done on the international stage. And just saying, do it, because I'm a great businessman, is going to be enough. And I think Canada, we need to stand up and not give in to every little rule that he stipulates. What's the worst thing they're going to do? Are they going to build a wall? So, I think one of the news that headlines I have heard since the election is that Mexico and Canada were going to form this alliance when dealing with Trump. I don't know if this is true, but I think Mr. Trump is a lot on talk. He doesn't really know what he's going to do. He doesn't know what he can actually do. And just on a little side from this topic, it's said that Hillary has 1.3 million more votes than Trump. But because of the Electoral College, so I've said this before and I'll stipulate it again. He may be elected President of the United States. However, I don't think we have to follow him. He may want and expect that Canada is going to bow down to his every whim, but I don't think Trump and the U.S., where the U.S. is going, will be worth dealing with. So again, this is something that we have to think about, and it's coming up very soon. Have a good night. Oh, well, we'll have our closing thoughts in a moment. Okay, closing thoughts. Well, we talked about shooting and love thy neighbor, and then we talk about how Canada should, build its own to be a strong country on its own without necessarily relying on the states. And, we could still be friendly with the states. We just have to have our own goals and agendas and not have to bow down to every little thing the next administration wants out of Washington. Now, I think Canada has also changed the amount or the number of people they can allow to come into Canada to work. But all these things, it's something we definitely really have to think about. So have a good day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye now.